Hello and welcome to the Dignity Accord. My name is Fils Jean-Pierre Mtsinzi, and this is the Dignity Negotiation Podcast. It's part of this first season on dignity in education. We have been exploring how education systems shape human experience. And in the first episode, we looked at how education systems condition the behavior. Today, we are moving deeper to how it conditions the mind itself. Across many systems, intelligence has come to be associated with memory, performance, and the ability to reproduce what is taught. But in a world where machines can now do this task too, this raises one deeper question: what does it really mean to think, and what remains uniquely human? So to explore this, I'm joined by Dr. Akhil Kumar Singh, the Assistant Professor of Public Policy at MS Ramaiah University of Applied Sciences, whose work examines how education shapes human behaviors, and his work explores the intersection of philosophy, psychology, and human development. Dr. Singh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Phil, for inviting and very relevant and important discussion. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Singh. First of all, what actually drawn you to this area of research?
Yes. So basically, I started with you know engineering side. I am computer engineer, and I slowly started to look some of the problems which we have in the society and which should be diminished by the educational initiatives and education, but it is not happening. And slowly, interest started to build in social sciences and obviously the education because this is the core of any developing society. If you want to change the route or path of any society, you have to change a little bit about how do we educate our future generation. So I see is like a democracy. If democracy is a vehicle, then basically education is one of the important engine which make the vehicle to move. So that is how I came into this domain, and currently I focus in decolonial educational thought and philosophy of education, psychology of education, and some of the educational policy related issues. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh. Can you tell us what do you think is our current understanding of the term intelligence itself?
So the point is that intelligence is a you know is a skill of any organism. It's not only exclusive to the human being. It is a skill which help any organism to survive and navigate this complex world, right? A very changing and complex world. But right now, the how education sees intelligence is like in Indian classroom right now in most of the cases is essentially reduced to the understanding where one who can reproduce the teacher's words most accurately and faithfully and fastest also. And it got reduced to recall speed, and it has the roots in colonial model, which needed clerk at that time, not thinkers. The problem is that we are not thinking intelligence or we are not considering intelligence as a power of thinking. We are just considering intelligence as a power of reproduction, power of memory, and speed. So we basically the education system is not like the same every time. Before Macaulay or before colonial education system started, our understanding of intelligence was very different. And but due to political and colonial structures, the understanding of intelligence got changed, and we are still following it. So, just very simple example in a classroom, who is the topper? Who is the topper among 60 students? A topper is not one who thinks best, but one who can memorize this, means, or you can reproduce the words as it is of the teacher does. Right? So this is a categorical error. We are calling memory as intelligence, which both are very different, right? And then wondering why our pass out or graduates are not able to think very innovatively, independently, and creatively. So here is a category mistake, right? So we are equating intelligence as a memory, which is problematic. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned how we often rate results instead of considering the whole process. Can you tell us how the colonial structures impacted the way we define intelligence and education systems?
Yeah, there could be multiple explanations. I'll touch a few. One angle or one aspect to look over this whole debate is the outcome, right? So, objective do we want to fulfill through any educational mechanism or structure? So, before colonial invasion in India, the objective or aim of education was very clear, right? And the aim was to live your life meaningfully, to realize yourself, right? And to become free of the societal bondage so that you can realize your own true self, right? So you can touch your true personality, and based on that personality, you do whatever you want to do in the world or achieve in the world, right? And do your work or profession as per your personality. Right? That was the core aim of the education before colonial. If you remember our previous before colonial system, there were a lot of people were get trained in various vocational, which we call right now vocational, a lot of vocational areas, right? But right now, vocation becomes very subsidiary to the intellectual work. Why this is happening? Because when the Britishers came, they focused a lot of, or they started emphasizing a lot of on the mental work or intellectual work which they understood, and that was based on the requirement of the colonial power, right? And that is why a lot of focus on mathematics, a lot of focus on language, because they required the accountants to manage their accounts, right? Do calculation, because the revenue and the taxation was the primary profession given by the British. And then they also need translators who can translate English language in the Indian languages, in various Indian languages, right? So a lot of emphasis was given on mathematics, yani numerical, as well as linguistic language, right? And other professions were not that much appreciated because those were considered as vocational and not very mental, intellectual professions. Now the problem is that we we continued that system, and in the process we forget the art to realize our own self. Means, if I'm good in mathematics, that doesn't mean that I have to do accounting, right? There is possibility that my personality has very different thing, right? So how do we realize that personality? How do we connect our own self, and how do we understand that what actually do we want to do in the world? And that is where real education or purpose of education comes into the picture. And we forgotten this art in the process of last 200 or 300 years. And only thing we are doing is the just memorization, reproducing the facts, and arriving at the solution. And that is what I started, like outcome based, right? So we just want to arrive at outcome very fast and very easily, speed and accuracy, right? But not necessarily you have outcome in every action, right? So there is saying that instead of arriving at solution, the actual solution lies in the process of solving. So staying with the question and the process. If you go with the Vedic text like Isha Vasu Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, they try to use the pedagogy where a lot of questioning is happening, right? So a teacher is giving some question and the student is going and thinking, lot of thinking, doing that question. Arriving at a solution was not the primary purpose. If you understand the process, automatically you will arrive at the solution, right? But right now, what is happening? We have objective question papers where whether we understood the concept or not, it's not a matter of discussion or assessment. Are we able to pick the correct answer? This is only the right thing, right? If I am able to correct
Mm.
any answer and which is right, means I can get the mark. right? But am I understood? Have I understood the concept? It is not relevant for these days, for today's system.
Well, you mentioned how education was siloed and what this did to the minds. What is the alternative to the memory based intelligence?
A very simple alternative. Are you able to navigate the complexity of the world or not? Able to solve the real world problem or not? Are you able to give good amount of sound thought over a problem or not? Right. So, for example, there are a lot of cases you will see these days. The students are passing 90%, like passed with 90%, but they are not able to cope up simple failure in any entrance exam. A lot of student suicides are happening, mental health issues are happening. Why? They are very good. They are doing very good in the present evaluation system, right? Result oriented system. But they are not able to cope up their own self and forget about the world complexity, which is way more than complex than the human being, right? So if a child is securing 90%, but unable to, manage their own health, physical and mental, just imagine how they will cope up with complex world. So simple parameter could be marks is fine. That's their own, but don't give lot of value to the marks. Are they able to solve the real world problem? I think that is the parameter we should adopt. And there are a lot of examples, alternative methods are there in the world. A lot of proven and tested methods are there where the marks are not the parameter of the evaluation. And this is very accurately you pointed out, very, very good point. Just 2 years before the report came that a lot of employer are saying that we are finding graduates, right? But these people, these graduates are not employable. Right? So they have passed the degree, which is required for a particular job. They have good marks also. Everyone got first division, but they are not able to solve the problem. They are not able to work efficiently, right? So this is happening because everyone is chasing the marks, not chasing the actual knowledge which can be used in the world. So yeah, this is tough task. We have to design evaluation in a manner where we can test the problem solving abilities of a particular human being or child. Simple objective method of question and answer and evaluation and giving marks. It's a very easy method. It's a very easy. You can design a question and you can give the same question paper to millions of children, right? But if you want to find the alternative problem solving method, then you have to give time, you have to give attention, you have to invest energy, fund, everything to assess. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. That makes great sense. Education system should really be redesigned and we should change the way we evaluate knowledge. In the world where information is instantly accessible and reproduced in abundant quantities, machines are now able to generate information, automate the tasks. What does this reveal to the memory based education that is being questioned? What is the judgment based intelligence looks like?
So you see, the whole value proposition is being changed. Right? So right now, most of the education system, memory based evaluation. PPT, I very recently read a report that it is able to solve the GMAT question paper or even IIT question paper with more than 90% accuracy. Right? If a machine can do this, then entire proposition or value proposition of memorization based examination collapse. Right? There is no difference between human taking the exam and machine taking the exam. Then why are you taking the exam? So the whole value proposition got changed. Right? So the deeper damage is not about information. The deeper damage is about the subjectivity. Right? And the judgment comes with the subjectivity. Right? The whole AI or machine or these days is based on the memory based prediction. Simply. Right? It's just prediction based on the data which is being fed. Right. So it's a memory based prediction. Human also do that, but human do one extra thing. Human has some extra thing which these machines do not have. This is which is the subjectivity, right? So
Mhm.
basically, this education trains kind of the student to treat knowledge as something which is very concrete, very atomic, right? And which is different from the student or human being, which can be stored somewhere, which can be retried somewhere, and based on this memory, some prediction can be made, right? But it is not about the constructing of the knowledge. We are missing the construction of the knowledge. So this produces particular relation with the truth. For example, if we consider knowledge as atomic, as very different, objective, then whatever the textbook is saying is true. Whatever the teacher is saying is true, right? And similarly, whatever the internet is saying is true, right? But questioning actually starts with the subjectivity, right? So questioning becomes not just discouraged, it becomes it's cognitively declining, cognitively unavailable for the human beings. So how do you make judgment? If you do not involve your subjectivity, judgment will not come. And the machines basically are not judgmental. They will predict anything based on the data which they have, right? They don't give judgment. Human beings give the judgment with their own subjectivity. But if by the design or by the system, this subjectivity get diminished, right? So we will also work like a machine. We will not able to give the judgment. I hope I'm making sense here.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned the concept of subjectivity, how machines cannot experience, they just reproduce knowledge or predict. This now brings me to broader question. Schools do not just transmit knowledge, they also raise those who become the next generation. The schools raise the future leaders, the voters, the citizens, the parents, those who become politicians. What does this memory based education condition the students to be in the future? How does it affect their minds and way of thinking?
Yes, produce leaders, right? But we are just producing some translators. This maybe sound very crude, but we are just making some very shallow level interpreters. I would not say thinkers. Right? So education is not just about filling the mind with the data that I emphasize deeply and frequently whenever I talk about education. Education is not about filling mind with the data. Right? Basically, it is shaping the mind, right? And it should shape the mind. The problem is that current system cultivate what we might call kind of a dependent cognition, right? So cognition means how you are getting the knowledge, like getting the knowledge of anything. So your process of getting knowledge is dependent on what? The data, the facts. Either it is coming from the textbook, either it is coming from the teacher, either it is coming from the chat GPT, or either coming from the internet, whatever. But your cognition is dependent, right? You wait for the instruction to be given, right? And I see is very frequent example. Whenever in my classes, I say that, okay, you design your project. So every semester we have a student has to do project, and I say very openly, you design your project. It is very complex for the students because their brain, their mind has not been trained, right? And all of the mind is in that mode that you give the instruction, they will fulfill the task, right? It's very easy for them. You just tell them, okay, what you have to do. You have to read these three papers, three literature, they will do it. But why these three literature have to read it? That should come from the human beings, right? It should not be given like an instruction, right? So the mode in which they are working, the current education system is working, that the students wait for instruction And once they get the instruction, they try to identify or find the right answer, right? Immediately, very fast, right? And they also try to, reduce the ambiguity. Very correct answer, very focused and, polished answer. And that is how the machine is working. It gives you very polished answer. Ambiguity is not there, right? This is kind of, I believe that ambiguity dilemma is the human essence, right? So, in a crux, these habits basically show up everywhere. If they are studying in the school, if they are studying in the university, if they are working, workplaces, where nobody is taking initiative by their own. Okay, everyone is like dependent on some external instructions and also approval. And if you are in that dependent mode, then you cannot be a leader. Right? Leaders should think independently, should behave independently, think very innovative, new, creative ways to find a solution. Right? But if you are on the in the mode where you just take instruction and try to fulfill that, you cannot be a leader. Right? So in public life, where people follow narratives, without examination, that's waste. And that is why I particularly believe that we are forgetting the knowledge of embodied cognition, which argues that body is very important to secure or to save this subjectivity. Right? If everything is objective, then you are just doing mechanical work like machine work. And this is why design is happening. Right? Just imagine a classroom. Every student sit in a same manner. There is no ambiguity. Everyone is sitting in the same manner. Everyone is looking towards a blackboard or whiteboard, you know, directly in front of them. Right? So no, what I call very recently I was reading Tom Fay's position of embodied cognition, and he says that there must be some error. Without error, you cannot have creativity or you cannot have the subjectivity. Error should be there. And right now we are in the moment where everything is polished, everything is very accurately correct. Just lack the subjectivity. So, and that is how they are disconnected with the experience, context, right? Experience, context, feeling. These are very important to arrive at a decision or to give the judgment and to work in the world, right? Very creatively. If you don't use the context and even feeling, my gut feeling, then it will be very mechanical. And mechanical people cannot be a leader. Very simple.
Mhm.
Right? So it's a systematic problem.
Well, there is a great insight, Dr. Singh. You mentioned how in the classroom, how students sit in the desks. Actually,
Yes.
this makes me curious to a question. Actually, do you think schools are the only places where we actually gain experience or where we gain knowledge?
No, not at all. Learning by nature is not a classroom bounded thing, right? And as I said just a few minutes before, that real learning involves the context. Right? And I would again come from like being the cognitive science here. So there is a trend of four recognition. Right? So it argues that cognition are it involves or it has the four characteristics. So four E. One is embodied, second is inactive, third is uh, uh, you know, uh, embedded, and fourth is extended. Right? What that means? Embodied means knowledge cannot be dissociated from the body. Right? It is not completely mental. Body is the constitutive part of the knowledge or learning. Right? Similarly, inactive means to get the knowledge, you have to be inactive in the world. Means action. And action could be anything, like bodily action or action of the my sense organs or anything. So there must be some interaction, inaction happening between world and human being and the body, right? Then the embedded where in the situation, in the surrounding, right? So if I'm learning anything, this learning cannot be dissociated from my, embeddedness, from my context, from my surrounding, right? And then extended. This learning is also not only restricted to my brain, but it is extended to non-neural body parts like my hand, my fingers, even my pen and paper, right? So it is part of the world. So all these four combinedly give rise to the learning, which is facilitate the learning. Right? So basically, the problem is that we are forgetting these context, this extension, the role of body and the body. We are only focusing on the mind side, mental side. Right? Just take an example, right? So most of the educational practices are memory based right now, right? And we call them intelligent, right? But a particular judgment or intellect actually have the ethical considerations, right? If it doesn't involve the ethics, then we cannot say that this judgment or this decision made by human, right? Then we are just machine. Similarly, the context, the societal context, my bodily context, my feeling, my geographical context, climatic context. So everything is important. And as you said, to make the future generation leader, we have to have used these extra mental things, the context, the environment, the world, and obviously the ethics. This is also very important these days. Then only we can say intelligent decision being made, and this is non-machine uh, intelligence.
Well, you have also spoken about how colonial structures have reshaped the way we see intelligence. I want us to go deeper into how these colonial structures influence the way we evaluate knowledge.
Yes. So you see, I'll go directly to the point. There is difference between worldview, right? So specifically, I can talk about India, but it is true with any colonized country, right? Be it like the Asian countries, or be it African countries or India. So, point is that every culture, every society has their own worldview, which we call the metaphysics, right? So, every society has their own worldview. India has their own worldview, which we can combinedly, with the exception little bit, but combinedly we can call Vedic worldview. And what this Vedic worldview says, it argues that there is integration. Right? There is one Brahma, there is a Jiva, but everything is interdependent and integral worldview. Right? So very good example comes in Nyaya philosophy that there is no difference between knowledge and knower. Right? Who knows the knowledge? Right? So knowledge and knower, which we can call object and subject. So there is no clear distinction between object and subject because everything is integrated, interrelated, right? Now, just imagine the Western side or the British worldview. British worldview basically, formalized on the Christianity thought and then later developed with the era of Renaissance and rationalism. And how the worldview there emerges that there is objective reality and I'm the subjective person, means if I'm human, I'm subject, and apart from me, everything is object, right? Means there is no direct interrelationship. If there is any object, then I have to go, take it, use it for my benefit. And that is why you see a lot of industrial revolution, lot of environmental degradation is happening in the West. Because it started with the worldview that there is a separation between object and subject, right? But in India, we didn't have this separation. We cannot separate ourselves from the earth or the universe because we are the part of the one larger reality. So there is a difference between the worldview. Now, what happened when British came to India? They brought their own worldview, obviously, because they were following that worldview. And because of that worldview, slowly, all the systematic changes started to happen. And that is how you see that very different textbook which holds the knowledge. There is one person coming from the outside who is taking this knowledge and delivering to the students. Right. So you see, lot of atomic, lot of differentiation is there. Right. Knowledge is one thing, teacher is one thing, student is one thing. And the only job of teacher is to transfer this knowledge from textbook to the mind of the student. Right. So I see it as a very deeper level change, which starts from the different metaphysical worldview or different metaphysical positions. So British or the West has very different metaphysical worldview or position. India has very different. India's worldview is very integrated, and that is why we don't have very watertight separation between object and subject. But in British or Western European model, we have this separation. And because of this separation, lot of problem emerges in education particularly. For example, this evaluation. So the thought behind is that we can evaluate the knowledge objectively. That is why we created objective questions, right? So whether you understood or not, if you are able to tick mark the right answer, that means you are okay. Because knowledge is very separate, human being is very separate. But in Indian context, we cannot have the watertight separation between knowledge and the person who is holding the knowledge. I think I'm going a little bit deep in the philosophy, but I think that's okay to enough to understand that from where it actually started. And I don't blame Britishers, right, directly. I don't blame them because they were following their own worldview. Every society follow their own worldview. Right. Suppose today I'm in India, I'm trained in a very different position, religious, ethical, societal position. If I'll go to Australia or for that matter any European country, I will not change my position because that is how I am shaped. That is how my belief and my thoughts, built in the last 35 years. Right. So they were just following their own worldview. But the problem emerges because our worldview and their worldview was very different.
Well, you have mentioned how every system or every culture has their own worldviews, which may be different from the other worldviews. Do you think the way we view these worldviews, do they really matter or do they count? Or the colonial influence, how does it manifest in the modern world? Do we risk losing the indigenous knowledge and cultures?
Yes, yes, it's happening right now. It is a fact of the reality that lot of indigenous practices, lot of indigenous things on the verge of wiping off from the society. Right. So consider language. Right. Very first thing is the language. Lot of languages are on their verge of extinction. Why? Because we are trying to build a world in a very uniform manner, homogeneous manner. We are trying to build in a very homogeneous manner that everyone should speak one language, everyone should do same kind of profession, everyone should do same kind of lifestyle, everyone should wear like a similar thing, everyone should eat like a similar food. Why this is required, right? Every society has their own climatic and geographical context. And in that context, geographical and climatic context, a particular culture or system emerged, which we call philosophy of a particular community, right? And obviously, with the same philosophy, the language emerged in a different context. So, why there should be one homogeneous system? And it is affecting as well as it has already done a lot of problems, lot of harm has been already done. So it is not the question about the risk. We are already living in that place. We are already facing these problems. A lot of indigenous cultures and language and materials, art form, everything is being extinct. And the point is that because the colonizers countries and majorly the West and the US has good amount of money, which through which they can influence the world order, they can influence the other country, and that is how they are spreading the culture of homogeneity.
Dr.
Am I
Kill, you
audible?
made me, yes, you made me curious. Who actually gains when we think in the same way, when we are expected to perform and express in the same way?
The power holders, very simply. Whosoever has the power, uh, they will gain the benefit. And I'll quote here Paulo Freire. He says that there are two classes, only, right? One is oppressor, another is oppressed. So most of the oppressed people, is when they realize that they are oppressed, they try to shift their group, right? So they want to shift from oppressed group to the oppressor group, but they are not actually looking the oppression as a problem. They just want to get rid of their own group. So, for example, if I say, if I'm not very much into the no, let me take very simple example, very contextual to India, that we have economically two groups. One is above poverty line, another is below poverty line, right? So the target of most of the people who are living in the below poverty line, who are living under the below poverty line, their only target or aim is to shift their position from below poverty line to the above poverty line. Means they can get the some good amount of money from any like doing good profession or any other thing where they can get paid more, so that their status can be changed. And now they are into the above poverty line. But poverty as a concept is nobody targeted. Why there should be two groups in the economic strata? That's how we should question. So that is what the whole crux is, that whosoever the power, they try to retain the power, and whosoever is not in the power, they try to gain that power. But we need to realize that having this extra power than the other human being is problematic as a concept. Problematic as a concept. We should question that. But that requires subjective, independent, intellectual thinking power, right? And which we are losing day by day.
You also made me reflect on the of the present day struggles such as misinformation. How does such memory based intelligence, where there is lack of proper judgment, affect or amplify the era where misinformation is currently high?
Yes, which we are discussing uh, since last half an hour. So if you are memory based thinking, that means you are not using your judgment. Right. Judgment to first realize that what is truth, what is not truth. How will you differentiate between truth and non-truth? Misinformation is non-truth if I label this differently. So information is something which is coming to you, but it is true information, correct information, or it is misinformation or incorrect information. How will you assess that? How will you judge that? If all the data, if I'm working on the memory based mechanism, if all the data which is being fed inside me is kind of incorrect data, misinformation, then for me it is actual truth. It is not the misinformation. Misinformation from a different context, right? So it is the same allegory of a cave which Plato explained, right? So if you are living in the dark, if you born in the dark and you are for the whole life living in the dark, You will not realize that this is dark. There is some other light or sun is there, right? Because you have not seen the contrasting thing. You have not seen the other side. So you will not realize that there is a truth lying beyond my reality. So for you, the whatever the data is inside you is truth, is reality for you. So you will not realize that something is misinformation or false or none. That is why the contextual, embodied, ethical judgment practice is important. Right? We should not behave completely on data. That's simply one line is clear. Data-based, decisions will not give you ability to differentiate between truth and misinformation. And that is how this whole AI and machine is working. If if the wrong data has been fed to AI, it will give you the wrong responses because it will not able to identify that what is wrong, what is right. There are few cases, just few months back, there were few cases that someone was interacting with AI tool, and in the responses, they found that AI is having bias, right? AI is biased towards a particular community, towards a particular particular group of human beings. I will not say the community name, but you can just understand, right? And why this AI is able to be biased or how it became biased, how it became stereotyped, because the data is the same manner, right? So if a particular one race of human being is oppressing another race, and there are a lot of literature, a lot of data available to justify it, and if it is fed into the AI, then automatically I will understand, okay, this is truth, this is right, I should behave like that. So the only problem is that with the memory based decision is that you will lose the ability to identify that the information which is being fed is right or wrong. If it is wrong, then your decision will also be wrong, but you will not realize it. Yes.
Well, I agree with you. The knowledge cannot be measured just based on data. How do you see this in practice? How do you see this the shift from memory based intelligence to the judgment based intelligence? How do you see it in practice in the classroom? What are the concrete measures or steps we can take to adopt this judgment based intelligence?
You see, there is no problem intelligence for data. I emphasize on this word very consciously. You cannot use AI for all the tasks, right? Can you use AI to teach 7-year kid how to dance? You can use AI to deliver some of the information about dance. Maybe one dance form you are trying to teach. You can use AI to deliver us some information. But dancing is a very is an embodied activity. This is not mechanical. So a dance teacher will not lose the job. Light, no time saving. So any person who is doing very mechanical job, which machine can do, machine will automatically outperform these kind of job, these kind of profession. For example, accounting, right? Calculation of data, right? Translation, one language to another language. Machine can outperform, right? Because these are mechanical jobs. In these professions, a human intelligence or human judgment or pure humanly element is not required. It's just mechanical. So these kind of profession, obviously, they will see decline in the job for the humans. Companies will hire AI agents and not the humans because obviously one AI agent can do the work of 10 humans in the same cost or maybe lesser cost. Right. But wherever any particular profession where actually human related elements are available, it will be very tough to replace. Right? For example, if my pedagogy means how do I teach in a classroom is related to the delivery of the lecture, delivering of the information. It's just mechanical thing. AI can do better than me because it has large corpus of data, right? But if I want to see that how children are actually applying this, how they are actually inferring the knowledge from the data or the information which I have given, then we will require human intervention. So, anyways, the crux of my point is that wherever the human elements are available, machine will not replace, but it will be very tough for machine to replace that. But if you are working on a very shallow level mechanical process or mechanical procedures, automatically machine will outperform, AI will outperform. Then we have to think that what are those human elements which we can actually preserve and secure, right? And that is how we have to redesign our educational system. If we are keep doing evaluation based on the information delivery, then whole education will be based on education delivery, and AI will take care. AI will take over. So we have to change everything, all the hurdles, all the different nut bolts. We have to change of the system. And we have to find out in this very complex era that what exactly the values, what exactly the elements which are very human. And that is some of these I said. Ambiguity. Humans are prone to do the error. We are losing it. We are not making any error. If I'm writing a mail, everything is very polished, very structured, no error, no grammatical mistake. This is inhuman, right? Human, if you are becoming a perfect in everything, then you are not actually learning. So error is important. Ambiguity is important. Considering the context, right, is important. Same mail, same message. If I have to convey to my sister, to my mother, right, the context will change. Same message. If I have to convey the same message to my teacher, the context will change. Right. So
Yes.
these kind of human elements, which is not captured by the machine, should be. Or and in these scenarios, the body is kind of foremost, a tool for us because AI do not have the body. AI do not have the five or more than five senses. AI cannot have the gut feeling. I don't know from where the gut feeling comes, but every human being experiences that. They have gut feeling over something. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right. Right. That is not the question. But how this gut feeling is coming? This is a very human element, which AI cannot have.
Then Dr. Singh, how do you think we can actually measure these human elements? We criticize colonial structures on how they have changed the way we see intelligence based on memory and results, but they have also some positive impacts, such as in- increasing productivity, technology rise, because we can simply measure the results. How do you think schools can adopt this judgment-based education? How do you see it in classroom?
Mhm. Yes, you are right. There were some benefits also with the colonial structure. For example, accessibility. Right? So it made the education made accessible to many large, and also connecting with the global knowledge, restricting to their own knowledge. That is there. I'm not denying. My point again, going back to rules. So they are actually, it changes how do we see ourselves and the world. Right. The whole mindset got changed due to the colonial structure. Now, point is that whether we have to choose memory based or judgment based education, that's a separate question. First of all, I want to make clear that not all memory based education is wrong, right? And not all domain requires judgment based education. Right? It depends on the purpose, the objective, which what objective we want to fulfill. If we want to hire a particular we hire a person which the job of that person is to just calculate the debit, credit, and profit in a company, then I don't require a very contextual and embodied and ethical decision maker. I don't require that kind of quality. I require very well versed in the mathematical and giving me objective result. And it is also memory based. So I'm not denying, I'm not saying that all the memory based education is wrong. Right? But we need to see the purpose, the objective, which we want to follow, which we want to actually achieve. Now, as a country, as a democracy, which kind of population do we need or do we want to make in the coming for 10 year or 15 year or 20 years? That leads to the educational changes. So, for example, if India want to become developed country in coming 20, 30 years, then it must require a particular kind of population which will help in the workforce, in the economy, and for that matter in the area. And it will lead to the changes in the education system, which will help these children or population to achieve these objectives. Right. So first question we should ask that what objective do we want to achieve? Do we want to create our population as a if we need memory based person for a particular profession, that is fine. We don't require this. Now coming to the your core question that how we can adopt in classroom the judgment based education or learning. First is that we have to get rid of the common evaluation. We cannot have common evaluation for all children. If there are 30 children in the classroom, not all children can have same mathematical level skill or the skill of the same mathematical level. Not all children can have the same linguistic level. Not all children can learn all the geographical concepts, history, science, everything. Right? Every children is unique. We have to realize that. And the job of teacher is not the just year end examination, but they have to assess a particular child every day. That in what area the particular child is getting interested, how much knowledge he has got, how much knowledge he is lacking, what areas he is lacking. Is he able to apply the knowledge which he or she has learned in the previous 2 months? Right. So this specific child-centric evaluation system we have to create. And I'm not talking very hypothetically. There are a lot of schools, there are a lot of centers who are doing this individual child-centric evaluation, where teacher and the bond between teacher and student is very close. That teacher know that how children is progressing. So we have to break this evaluation. Once this evaluation system is broken, then automatically other things will follow. Then student don't have to memorize. They will not have the fear in their mind to write the exam on a particular date, right? Then they will actually be interested in the learning in whatever the subject they are more interested or more comfortable. There are a lot of cases you might have heard that people are not very well versed with the mathematics. I'm also not very mathematical person. So people are not very well versed with the mathematics, but after 20 year or 30 year, when their profession requires mathematical skill or demand mathematical skill, and they realize inherently that okay, this mathematics I need to learn, they learn very quickly, and they also don't require the teacher at that time. Why? Because this is coming from the inner interest, inner passion. So how to identify these inner interests? Every child can have very different interests. A teacher's role should be to identify these interests and orient the child towards that. Not all skill is required for all children. That's for sure. No common curriculum, no common evaluation. That's That's the thing which we should actually get rid of.
Well, what about the student teacher relationship in classroom? Actually, you have mentioned how a student does not only acquire knowledge from classroom. How do you see that practically in the classroom? Do you think a student is an empty vessel to be taught,
Uh,
or they already come with experience?
not for example, how many hours a child spend in school? Maybe 6 hours, 7 hours max, right? What is happening in remaining 13 or 14 or 15 hours? We cannot say that their learning is happening only for 7 hours on the duration when they are in the school, right? Learning is happening everywhere, even if they are, at the home, if they are traveling, if they are. So, first of all, we need to break this stigma that learning or education happens only in the school time, time period. Now, the question is that what actually they are learning. So, they are learning a lot of things related to the life, related to the survival, in the world, related to the skills which is widely available around them. So, for example, a child who is from carpenter's family, right? If his or her father is carpenter, lot of skills which are involved in the carpentry, he or she is already learning automatically because it is widely available. That is skill. If a village or a particular community is popular community or any for that matter, any blacksmith community, if a lot of blacksmith people are there in a village, then automatically children will learn these skills, right? And it will involve a lot of things and a lot of scattered information they are learning. Now the role of the school is to only orient them and guide them in a proper direction, right? For example, if a child's father is accountant or let's say let's say shopkeeper, okay, the child will automatically learn the counting, basic mathematical subtraction, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. These basic mathematical skills he or she will automatically learn, right? So these are scattered information, these are scattered learning. Now the role of the school is to tell these kids that okay, this is how you do addition. Now what is the use of addition? How will you actually use the addition skill in a real world? Right? How do you apply this skill? This is where the school's role comes into the picture. This is how the school should behave, right? But every kid will be learn A for apple, B for ball, C for cat. Why? Every children's version for A for B for C for could be different. The school's role is only or should be restricted to make them understand okay, whatever you have done A for X, A for something, B for something, C for something, that doesn't matter. It's your context, it's your reality, it's your knowledge. But there are 26 letters, right? And there are vowels, consonant, and this is how you do permutation, combination, and build the words. This is what the formal knowledge the school should be. So the problem is that we want to teach children uh, everything as a common, as a homogeneous, right? And we miss the context, the surroundings, and non-school hour learning, right? So this is very profound thing. We should realize that learning is not restricted to the school hour of 6 or 7. Every kid is learning. The point is what he or she is learning is relevant for them for the life or not. That's one question. Second question, how their existing learning can be channelized towards the formal system. That is where schools should focus. Just imagine every kid learn language, learn to communicate with their parents, family without any school, right? There is no school to teach mother tongue. Everyone learns mother tongue automatically. It's a natural process because the demand is to communicate, and because of that demand, human being automatically learn knowledge to communicate. There is no role of a school. But if you want to use this language as a skill in a formal system, then obviously you require some training. And that is where the role of schools or learning centers or teachers uh, comes into the picture.
Well, what kind of human does their knowledge that is based on memory, fast recalling instead of judgment produce in our society?
So basically, we are emphasizing more on certainty, right? Very correct answer for any question, right? Immediately arriving at a solution. So certainty basically is one thing which we should be careful with. And this memory-based education is it's leading toward that certainty. Right? So education around judgment, what I mean is that designing the whole system to appreciate the uncertainty. Right? Everything is not fixed. There are flexibility, there are adaptation, there are uncertainty, there are ambiguity. We should realize that. We should appreciate. So basically, it means that classroom or schools or education system where the question matters more than the answer, right? Or the process of getting answer, process of arriving at a solution becomes more important than the answer itself. Because anyway, answer you can get it. You can just type the answer in a question in the AI, you'll get the answer. But that's not the purpose. That's not the value which you will get, right? So students should more practice to make a decision based on the incomplete information, I would say. That's one exercise everyone should do. So you have only very little bit information and then try to answer the question. And in that process, you will automatically use your brain, your human being, your gut feeling, your inferences, right, to arrive at a solution. So this is not about reducing the rigor or reducing the intensity of the education practices, right, of scientific or technological achievements, whatever we have got, right? It's a reality of the formal education. But you just think a little bit, these achievements or scientific advancement or new theories or prediction, whichever we have got, it's not because of the process of formal schooling, right? Be it Einstein, be it Newton, be it APJ Abdul Kalam, or any scientist or any innovator, Elon Musk for very recent, even Bill Gates and this Meta founder, in any of the innovator you see, they're not part of the formal education system, right? So they have very less information and they use this information to handle the question. They try to engage with the problem in very deeply, very intense manner. So the best scientist or engineer or innovator or leader you see are always the one who question, not the memorize. Right? So we need to not destroy the system, but we need to channelize the system, existing system in which the questioning is being more appreciated and redirecting the energy from reproduction of the facts and data to the judgment. And obviously, very directly to your question, this particular memory-based judgment produces very compliant systems, right? Compliant means they follow everything. Government says, okay, you have to do this. Okay, I'll do. Very compliant system, and it is not human, right? Human beings are not very compliant. They should question and they should follow based on the rationality and obviously with the responsibility. Means ethical concern or ethical aspect should be there in every kind of decision. Right? So current system basically produces people who can follow. you can be compliant, you can follow instruction, but not but not able to navigate the complexity with innovative and new things. And in a democracy, it's a very, very problematic. It's a kind of failure because how will a society, particular society or community, will enhance if everyone is following, nobody is thinking outside of the box, nobody is questioning anything. So it's not about only country or education or a particular system. It's a kind of humanity risk or civilizational risk, I would say. But if we are not questioning
Well,
anything, then automatically we will not progress anything, we will not create anything, we will not innovate
mm,
anything.
mm.
So it's a question on the whole civilizational development if we become compliant citizens.
Well, thank you very, very much, Dr. Singh. I loved the clarity that you brought to this conversation. And thank you, everyone who has joined. And the conversation remains open beyond the
Yes,
space.
inviting,
Well,
igniting. I think you have done very great initiative. You have started, and it will ignite a lot of thoughts. And I felt very good after talking to you. It's a very good conversation. We'll connect soon, and I would love to have conversation with our audience and questions even later on.
well, thank you very much, Dr. Singh, for your clarity and depth. And thank you, everyone who has contributed to this conversation. And if there is any other question or any comment, please feel free to leave it in the comment section and we will reach out to you and continue the conversation. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so